Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I'm Attorney Coral Pleas, the host of the show that we bring live to you every Thursday morning from 11 a.m. to noon Central Time on WNOV Radio. We are at 8:60 a.m. or if you're on the FM dial, it's 106.5. Please tune in every week. We try to provide informational topics that are of interest to the community. Anything concerning money is fair game because this show is sponsored by a bank. Columbia Savings and Loan Association sponsors this show on a weekly basis. So shout out to Columbia. Shout out to everyone who's at the branch who is tuning in, listening this morning. That would be Latoya, Jamila, Yumika, Louise. You guys are there holding it down so I could step out for an hour or so and come and bring this show live to the community. We were so fortunate the last several weeks. I did a series where we were just talking about Columbia Savings and Loan Association, why it's such a valuable gem in the community, why we are so blessed to have this 100-year-old Black owned bank around still and viable and prospering and serving the community where it's housed. We're so fortunate to have it. And I had Dr. Mose Fuller, who has been on the board of directors for Columbia Savings and Loan Association for the last 6 years. And he's been affiliated with and connected with the bank since the 1990s. So to have someone take the time to come to this show and really give us the history and the back understanding of Columbia and why it's so important to the community. So I just want to say thank you again to Dr. Fuller for taking the time out of his I should say his retirement, but he runs a church. He's a pastor, so he's a busy guy. And when he's not doing those things, he's inspiring me because he's a workout. Um, I won't say fanatic, but he's definitely a gym rat who gets in there and pumps that iron and keeps himself in shape, which is health is wealth, so that relates to money too. So anything I say is fair game to talk about money. But thank you, Dr. Fuller, for being with us in the most recent weeks. So today I'm going to shift the topic just a little bit, but talk about something that's really important, and that is credit. I like to call it a credit kickoff when I want to kick off a discussion relating to credit or credit scores, how to fix your credit, how to develop your credit or establish it if you don't have credit, how to improve the credit that you have if you don't like where your score is. All these types of topics are so important. And what I've really seen, especially in the last year and a half or so that I've been involved with Columbia, the best thing that anyone can do is just if you say someday you want to buy a home, or some point in the future maybe you might want to buy a car or any other transaction that has a volume where you probably need to have a credit review, someone reviewing your credit to determine whether or not you can have a loan for a car or a loan for a home. Then don't wait until you're ready to make that purchase. Don't wait until you say, oh, my car is falling apart. I need a car now. I better go try to fix my credit score to get one. No, because it does take some time to put the proper changes in effect to improve upon a credit score. So if you're thinking that you may want to buy a home anytime, let's say 2 years from now, then please tune in and focus with what I'm saying today, because now is the time to prepare your credit for a transaction that you may anticipate down the road a couple of years from now. Now's the time to fix it. Otherwise, it becomes a difficult thing. If you're in the midst of trying to purchase a home and you're in the midst of trying to fix some things that may be on your credit, then it prolongs the process. It creates issues. You might end up with a higher interest rate than what you truly deserve if you're not able to fix things in a timely manner. So we need to factor all of that in and start being proactive about dealing with your credit score and making sure that it's reflecting accurately. and reflecting hopefully positively on where you truly are in terms of credit. All right. So I've been getting a lot of requests to talk about credit, which is why I bring this topic back every 2 or 3 months or so that we speak on it again because it affects absolutely everyone. So let's see how far we can get and talk about some of the important informational topics that concern the notion of credit. So I like to start really basic and say, what is credit? Okay. Credit is the trust that allows one party to provide money or resources to another party. So if a bank or some other sort of finance company, if you would like credit, right, you want to buy a home and they'll say, all right, we got to give you this money on credit, meaning that they want to investigate the likelihood that you're going to be able to pay them back. So if your credit is not good, they're going to say, well, there's not a good likelihood that you can repay us. Or they may say, if your credit is okay, but not great, all right, we'll take some chance on you, but we're going to give you a higher interest rate than we might give someone who has credit that is more pristine. So you get the idea that credit is important because it can affect whether or not you get a loan, and it can affect what rate of interest you get, even if you are successful in getting a loan. So what is a credit score? All right. Well, there are different models that are out there in the world now that rate your credit score differently. But for purposes of today's show, I'm just going to make reference to the 3 digit number that is typically between 300 and 850, that is designed to represent your credit risk or the likelihood that you will pay your bills on time. All right. Creditors, those are the people that you would like to get a loan from. They look at your credit score as a factor when deciding whether or not to approve you for a new loan. So you can say, all right, Coral, then what is considered a good credit score? I'm going to go through the gamut, the range of credit scores. The lowest is a 300, with the highest being an 850. And again, that's on the particular model that I'm discussing today. There's different credit score models that are out there now that use different numbers that will have a different effect. But I'm talking about that traditional credit score model that most people are familiar with, where it is a 3 digit number that you get assessed by. So a poor credit score is anything from 300 to 579. So if you run your credit and your score comes in that range, you will generally be considered as having poor credit. If you run your credit score and you land in the range of 580 to 669, then you are considered to have fair credit. All right. So there's poor and then there's fair. But if you want to be considered as a person who has good credit, then you need to have a score in the range of 670 to 739. Now, again, please keep in mind that different scoring models, there's some flexibility, right? So you may have a different scoring model that says, nope, we don't consider you having good credit till you're at 675, whereas I just said 670. So there are different models that are out there that'll start the ranges at a slightly different number, but this is ballpark. So just understand that in order to have good credit, you need to aim for at least 670 in order to be considered as having good credit. 670 to 739 is considered good. 740 to 799 is considered to be very good. Okay. And excellent credit is 800 and up. If you hit 800 on a credit scoring model, you are considered to have excellent credit. Okay. What is the national average of credit scores using this particular model? The national average credit score is 695. So that means that would fall into a good range, because I mentioned that good is considered anywhere from 670 to 739. So the average national score of 695 would be considered to be a good score. Okay. Um, One of the principles of management, and I do study management and I do study leadership. I'll talk about that before. One day I'll come and just talk about those things, because that also relates to money, and there's some interesting concepts to talk about in the notions of management and leadership. But there's a saying, manage what you measure, right? You can only manage what you measure. And that relates to our topic today, because I always like to encourage people to know what your credit score is, that you should check your credit score, um, whatever intervals. Some people manage their credit scores monthly. There's companies out there that'll help you do that for a fee, of course, a monthly fee, where you can get a login and password. I don't know, different ones like Score Sense, and I don't know. You could probably Google some and just find them. I'm not recommending anyone in particular, but if you do a Google search, you can find a company that will help you to manage your credit, so that you can get a login and password and be able to run your credit, or just pull up your credit reports and see where you are on a regular interval, a monthly basis. Maybe if you've got some goals in mind that you would like to work towards, like I mentioned earlier, purchasing a home or purchasing a vehicle. I'm just thinking of things that are, costly purchases that you probably, most people anyway, don't necessarily pay cash for. Um, so it's important to be able to have that access to know what your credit scores are. And I mentioned that those organizations work for a fee. Well, you can also get a free copy of your credit reports, and that I believe that they will give you all three of the main credit bureaus. And again, these aren't the only ones, but these are the main ones: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the ones that most people are familiar with. I'll say it again: Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. And what you can do is you reach out to annualcreditreport.com, and they are at www.annualcreditreport.com, or you can call 1-877-322-8228, and you can request a free copy of your credit report once a year. They'll do it for you free of charge. That number again is 1-877-322-8228, or you can go online at www.annualcreditreport.com. That is annualcreditreport.com. And I really encourage everyone to contact either by phone or go online and pull your credit reports. And there's no excuse, because this way it's free of charge. And then that way you'll know you can manage what you measure. But if you don't measure, you can't manage it, right? Can't do anything to fix it if you don't know what it is. That's really what I'm saying. So everyone, please pull your credit report at least once a year and see where you stand. All right. Okay, enough said on that lecture. Um, there are 5 key ingredients that go into the determination of this thing that we call a credit score. One of them, and this is the biggest thing that they look at, is your payment history. 35% of your score is based upon your payment history. That's why it is so important to make payments in a timely manner. So, excuse me. So, they look at how you've paid your bills in the past, whether you've paid them on time or whether you've paid them late, whether you've missed any payments. Um, the more severe your delinquencies or the more recent and frequent of any late payment information, the greater the impact that it has on your credit score. So they look at different types of accounts. When I'm saying they, I'm referring to the credit bureaus that assign you these scores. It's good to have an understanding of how they go about doing that. They don't just pick the numbers randomly. They look at certain characteristics. The greatest of which is your payment history. So they will look at all your different types of accounts, whether you've got credit cards or retail accounts, installment loans, finance company accounts, mortgage loans, and then they also will look at public records and collection items. So, public records can be anything that's public knowledge or information. It could be a lawsuit that may have been filed against you. It can be a foreclosure action, which that's regrettable because that's a big one. If that gets looked at, that means that you had a mortgage on a home and for whatever reason you stopped paying, and then the bank, in order to get paid, forced a court action called a foreclosure in order to try to either get you to pay or to get back the title to the property. Bankruptcy is another public record that could be viewed um, um, publicly. No better way to say it. So, some of what they consider then is how late you were, how recently were the late payments, how many late payments were there, and how much was owed. So, these are important, very, very important characteristics because it makes up 35% of your credit score. Okay. The next largest consideration is the amount of debt that you have. And that is also a significant percentage. Only it's 30%. So slightly less important than the payment history, but still important, 30%. So they look at the total amount that you owe across whatever accounts that you have, um, and the amounts that you owe on specific types of accounts can also be considered, such as a revolving or an installment account. That's in addition to the overall amount that you may owe. um, what is also considered is the number of accounts with a balance. If you have too many accounts with a balance, that could indicate that you are at a higher risk of being overextended in terms of credit. And it's also considered the remaining amount that you may owe on any installment loan. So those factors are considered and they'll make up 30% of what's looked at. So it does look like we have a caller that's called in. I'd like to take the call before I continue with how the 5 key ingredients that make up your credit score. So caller, please go ahead.
Wow. Okay. I hope assalamu alaikum and thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely. Good morning
Um,
to you.
yes, ma'am. My question is related to when you were just speaking about foreclosures, and I have knowledge of a situation that took place, whereas a person was facing a foreclosure on two properties, but there was another individual that went to the post office and intercepted the reception of their mail, whereas they weren't able to attend the court court procedure to contest the foreclosure. I don't know if this is relevant to what you were speaking about or what you are speaking about because you provide absolute and nothing you ever have said I have any no contention with at all. But my question is, am I seeing something that if a person is facing a situation where they may lose their property and they're not and the situation becomes their mail is going to the post office as opposed to where they're actually living, and another person goes to the post office and intercepts the correspondence that would inform the other individual as to the time and the timing to respond to the meeting with uh, the the judge.
Hmm.
You know, am I making any sense to you?
No, you're making total sense to me, and that's such an unfortunate situation. What I'd like to do,
Okay.
we do have to take
All
a
right.
break. It's
Thank
just
you.
that time of the show, but I'm going to address your question as
Thank
soon as
you.
we come back from the break. So thank you so
God
much. I
bless.
appreciate your call. We'll be right back with Welcome back. This is Money Talks with Attorney Coral. And right before we went to the break, we had a caller call in, a wonderful gentleman that I know that I've spoken to before on the show. So thank you, first of all, for your listening and for calling in and participating in the discussion and the information that we share. So I want to do my best to answer the question that you raised. So I do know a little bit about the foreclosure process, being an attorney, and I actually used to process or handle foreclosures on behalf of a local bank that is no longer in existence. Um, but I'm going to take it from the top. So when a foreclosure action is filed, it's a lawsuit. And the law does require in Wisconsin that you actually serve the lawsuit upon the person who is named in the lawsuit. So the initial attempts are for personal service of that individual, where when they first start the lawsuit, a process server, let's say for instance, is hired. This is what I would do with my firm. You can also get the sheriff's department to do service on your behalf for a fee, but generally I would contract with and hire a process server to go to that person's home. The best case scenario is that they answer the door and you actually put the lawsuit in their hands so that they have it, so that there is no chance for it to have been intercepted by some other individual. But again, this is just when the lawsuit begins. That's the only step in the process that requires you to try to put this lawsuit in that person's hands. Now, there's other ways to affect service upon a person if you're not able to physically put a lawsuit in their hands. For instance, you watch the statutes of whatever state you're in. They will give an age by which a person, whoever answers the door, if they are a certain age, you can do what they call substitute service, and you can leave the lawsuit documents with that individual. If you're not able to leave the documents with the person who resides in that household who is above a certain age, then you may have to do what's called publication. And publication means that you actually publish the lawsuit in a local paper, such as the Daily Reporter, which is usually where notices like this are housed. And there's a combination in the statute. Walks you through the requirements where you publish, but you still are required to do some form of mailing as well, so that you want to do everything you can to actually get these papers in that person's hands. That's what makes you aware of the lawsuit. And once you're served with it personally, that is when the deadline for responding begins to run. Once they put it in your hand, you've got so many days that you have to file some sort of a written response with the court and with whichever counsel, meaning attorney, that filed that lawsuit against you. So you've got so many days to respond in writing, and all of that is given to you in the summons that is accompanied with the complaint or the lawsuit that's been filed against you. So let's assume that that much has happened legally, adequately, so that you have it in your hand. Okay, so you're at least aware that this lawsuit is out there. You know that you've got to get an answer in within a certain number of days. Now, the question that was raised, I think, was addressing further down into the lawsuit when, let's say, maybe there's a court date that the judge is trying to make you aware. And the issue that was raised, that if there was an individual that somehow intercepted your mail. So after you are personally served, once they've got service on you, they can now service you through mailing. Regular first class mail, then at that point, is all it takes. So I think that that's where the question arose. What do you do if someone intercepts the mail and then you're not aware of the next court appearances and so forth? Well, I think the issue is an issue of proof. First of all, how do you prove to the court that there's an individual that intercepted your mail? How are you aware of that fact? Because the issue is, once you have been personally served, that they know that you are aware of the pendency of this lawsuit, the court then, by law, can send matters to you via regular first class mail with the assumption that once they mail it, that you will receive it. Um, so I don't know how, in this circumstance, the example that it was made known that there was an individual that somehow intercepted the mail, but I guess you can see why intercepting someone's mail would be a federal offense, because that's serious business if you can cause someone to potentially lose their home. So I would say, first, is there a way to prove? Did the individual have a way to prove that there's someone who intercepted the mail? And if so, that needs to be reported, a police report or something of that sort. Because if you're going to come later back to a judge, so let's assume someone intercepted the mail and a court date was missed, and now the judge is saying, well, you're in a position of default. Well, you can then ask the judge for a motion to reopen, right? In the event of a default. But you've got to show good cause. You've got to show a reason to the judge why they should reopen and continue those proceedings when you were not there in person, if they feel you were served by regular mail. So it becomes a matter of proof. So it can be, from a technical standpoint, there are civil procedural rules in place that can help you ask a judge to reopen a matter, but that's where you might require some legal counsel to make sure that it's done properly and that it's done in a timely manner too, because that's the other thing that will affect. Let's say you were served, so you were aware of this lawsuit, default judgment happens, a year or more goes by, and then you come back and say, oh, I didn't get that notice. The judge might not look too favorably upon that because you were aware of the existence of the lawsuit. Um, if you come back, let's say a couple weeks goes by and, oh, somebody intercepted my mail and I wasn't aware, and excuse me, and it's only been a relatively shorter period of time, well, then that would bode in your favor in terms of asking a judge to reopen a matter. But a judge does have some discretion and some authority to reopen a case if you give them good reason to do so. But you've got to have some proof to back you up on that, um, as to why. That should be the case. Now, a judge may say, even if you don't have some sort of physical proof, you maybe do an affidavit and you just swear to the best of your um, knowledge and ability that you never got the mail, because we've all had it happen where we have inadvertently received someone else's mail. Um, Postal delivery people are not infallible. There's a possibility, although it doesn't happen routinely, there's a possibility that your mail was misdelivered. Maybe it went somewhere else in error. Maybe no one um, intercepted it deliberately. It could have been an accidental thing. But again, you get back in front of that judge as soon as you possibly can, and you give them a statement under oath that you never got that notice, and they can take all those types of factors into consideration. So, especially when you've got something as significant and as valuable as a home on the line, then the judge will take that all into consideration. But there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of different factors that get considered, but there is a civil procedural remedy to ask a court to reopen a matter that had been settled on a default judgment due to your failure to appear, if one of the reasons that you didn't show up is because you never received the notice. I would say let them know sooner versus later, and any other corroborating factors that you can list to get that back before the judge for consideration. Okay. So I said a mouthful. I hope I've answered the question. Um, but I'm going to go back to what we were talking about just a little bit here. I talked about two of the five key ingredients that make up your credit score: 35% being payment history, 30% the amount of debt that you have. The next one up is 15%, and that's the length of your credit history. Obviously, the longer, the better. The more they can look back and say, okay, yep, she's been paying, she's got had credit cards for 5 years or 10 years or 15 years or more. Then they get a real good feel for how long you've had credit and have you handled it responsibly over a longer period of time versus if you just got your first credit card 2 months ago. You don't really have a long credit history for them to look back at. So they look at the age of your oldest account. They look at your average account age as well. Okay. And they also consider the age of the different types of accounts. So credit cards versus auto loans and that sort of thing. And last but not least, the last two are 10% each. One of them is credit mix, and the other is the new credit that you have. Okay. So new credit at 10%. What's being evaluated is how many of your accounts are new accounts and what types of accounts are they? How long has it been since you've opened the new accounts? And that's what I mentioned. If it's a shorter period of time, that's not as strong a showing as if you've had credit cards for a longer period of time. And um, then yeah, just the final 10% deals with credit mix. So again, it's good to have a variety of different types of credit accounts that are being used or being reported. So including credit cards, retail accounts, installment loans, or a mortgage loan. Installment loans usually something like a car payment or that sort of thing. Um, and the bureaus that are reviewing your credit are looking at credit mix, because it's important. Um, 10% of your score to see the different types of credit you have and how you have utilized those different types of credit over time. So, all of those things factor in. Okay. So, what I wanted to do, so I was running through that kind of quickly because I wanted to have an opportunity to just do a little true or false. I'm going to invite the gentleman in the studio with me this morning to just weigh in with your opinion, true or false, with some of the questions that I'm about to state as relates to credit. You guys in?
I'm in.
Okay. All right. So I'll make the statement and you tell me whether you think it's true or false.
Okay.
Your income and salary factor in to your credit score. Do you think your income or your salary factors into your credit score with these credit bureaus?
Nope.
False.
False.
You are both correct. You are absolutely right. Lenders look at your income when you apply for a loan to see if you can afford the payments, but the score itself is based on credit behaviors. It's not based on your income. So you both get a gold star. You're
Hey.
absolutely right. All right. The next statement, uh, checking your own credit score won't hurt it. Maybe I should rephrase the
False.
question. If you check your own credit score, does that hurt your credit score?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, no.
Really?
If you check your own credit score, it's considered a soft inquiry, which does not affect your credit score.
Mm.
But if you go and you apply for a new credit card or a new car loan or something at a dealership, they do what's called a hard inquiry, and
Mm.
hard inquiries affect your credit score. So that was a tricky question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want to try to phrase this in a way that is more clear. I don't like how they have these written. Um, will closing an old credit card account lower your score? If you have an old account
Yeah.
that you don't even use, if you close it, will it lower your score?
And it's not paid off.
Even if it is.
Yes, I think it
You
will.
already said it and you were right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I learned that one the hard way because part of the issue with that, it goes back to what I was saying before when they look at the length of your credit history. If you've got an old account sitting out there, And even if you don't use it anymore, leave it alone. Let it sit because it's giving you a credit history. Um if you try to wipe it off, or you remove it for some reason, then hopefully you have another credit account that's just as old, to try to compensate for that. Because if you remove old cards, it shortens your credit history. You look like a credit rookie. That's what it is. And so, Jermaine, you are 100% correct. It will drop your score. um okay, can your credit scores affect insurance premiums? In other words, can your credit score affect, let's say, your car insurance rate or anything like that?
Yes, I think so.
Yep. You think so over
know.
there? You're saying no? Ah, you better follow Jermaine because he's hitting them out of the park. Jermaine, you're right again.
Sammy Sosa.
Okay. I know that name.
Yeah,
Is there a story there?
Yeah, he was a baseball player that was knocking them out the park. He was
Okay.
hitting home runs out the park. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right, Sammy Sosa.
Sammy Sosa.
I got you. All right, I'm slow. I had to catch on because I was gonna say what happened with his credit score. Okay, nope, I got you. But nope, that's true. That can be considered sometimes, even with job applications. Sometimes, depending upon where you're going to work, they try to factor these things in. And I don't know how fair that is because maybe if you get the job, you can pay your bills and have a good credit score, right? Even if you don't, but sometimes people look at that as a history of whether you were a responsible person, and a lot of judgment can factor in. Okay, here's an interesting one. um let me see, how do I want to phrase this? um okay, and I guess I kind of gave this one away at the beginning of the show. Is 850 on the model that we're talking, is that considered a perfect score? Is 850 a perfect score? True or false?
Ooh, false.
Okay. What do you say over there?
I got false too.
You got false too?
Yeah.
No, 850 on the model. Maybe it's not a fair question. On the model that we've been talking about today, that is the top score. 850 is as high as you can get on this
850 is?
particular model. Yep. So that would be considered a perfect score, but it is not necessary to get a perfect score in order to get the best credit. Generally, it's considered, if you have a 760 or higher, you're considered to have excellent credit and you'll get the best rates that are out there. um okay, so I have a better question. I didn't really like that one, but it looks like we have a caller. Okay, caller, thank you, please go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I caught the end of your conversation. You were saying what? How can you go without affecting your credit score to find out what your credit score is?
Sure. So one of the things that you can do annually is you can reach out to freecreditreport.com, and I'm going to give that information again, to anyone who's interested. There's a phone number that you can call, to request your own credit score, and you're entitled to do this annually free of charge. And you can call the number, which is 1-877-322-8228. That is 1-877-322-8228. Or you can go online at www.annualcreditreport.com. That is annualcreditreport.com for an annual and free copy of your credit report from the three credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And if you pull your own credit, it is considered to be a soft inquiry, rather than a hard inquiry. Hard inquiries go against you and pull your credit score down if you've got more than two during any certain time range. But soft inquiries, such as when you're applying for auto insurance, or if you are applying for a job, or if you pull your own credit report, all those are considered soft inquiries that will not drop your score.
You gave me some vital information because I did pay off some cars and I never did, you know, do anything else. I'll leave those alone. Can you
Hmm.
please repeat that number again?
Absolutely. The number to call to get your free credit report, and you're entitled to one a year where you don't have to pay. The number is 1-877-322-8228. That is 1-877-322-8228. Or you can go online at www.annualcreditreport.com. That is annualcreditreport.com. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, because I've been in background saving up some money for my pension. So when I get my pension, I think I'll be paying you guys a visit because I like what you be saying.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate your call today. Thank you so
All
much for
right.
calling in. Yep. So it looks like the timing of that was perfect. It looks like we are scheduled for another break. So we will be right back after the break with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Thank you. Just so grateful and thanking everyone for listening. And we've been getting just the very best calls today. So thank you, everyone, for adding to the conversation and bringing your questions to the table, because you guys make it good when you're listening and you're calling in and letting us know what you want more of and need clarification for. So that's absolutely a good thing. So, since I have the Sammy Sosa of the credit quiz in the studio this morning, I'm going to ask a couple more questions and see how far we go. Um, True or false? Older generations tend to have higher credit scores.
False.
What say you, the youth in the corner over there? Oh, you should. Um, no, that's not true. The older generations tend to have higher credit scores.
Oh, you know what? Me not paying attention. I didn't hear that question. Right.
Yeah, because I expected you to nail
Yeah.
that one, Jermaine.
Well,
Just-
because typically, older people are more conscious about their credit and what they're
Right.
Yeah.
And probably what I should have done, I should have defined what I meant by older generations too, right? Because the example that I gave, I'm taking just some facts that are mentioned and I'm trying to turn them into true or false questions. So the facts of this scenario is the silent generation. That means people age 78 and up. That's who we're talking about as older, right? And people age 78 and up, the silent generation, that's my parents' generation, their average credit score is 760. So that's like an excellent get whatever kind of credit they want or whatever they want kind of score, right? Whereas Gen Z, that's probably a youngster over there in the corner, age 18 to 26. Not saying this is your score, but I'm just saying that's the generation. That's all I'm saying. Gen Z, the average score is 681, which that isn't bad, for Gen Z, but there's a significant difference though. That's almost an 80-point difference between the elders and the youth. It
And
didn't, yeah.
And it's so hard to get your credit up. Like you really, really, really got to do some things to get it.
Right. Yep. There's some things you got to do if you want to move the needle. That is for sure. And maybe we'll do another show where we talk about what some of those things are and how to move the credit score.
Well, maybe you can help me on this one too, because I'm still trying to figure out why is it that credit is so important for us, but not for the country.
Yeah, I wish I could help you with that one.
I'm like, I don't understand that. But
yeah, no, I don't understand it either. So that's why I definitely, I know exactly what you're saying though. Yeah, we as individuals have to hold a standard that the nation itself doesn't adhere to. So no. So maybe do I have time for one more, true or false?
You got time for one more.
Okay. Is it true that when you get married, your credit score and your spouse's credit score merge together?
Yes.
See, my report says that's false.
Yes.
That they don't merge.
Yeah, because you under one name, the one she take on your last name.
Mm-hmm. But she still has her own history, right? And her still has her. So they don't take your score as husband and her score as wife and blend them together.
No.
They will factor them both in.
Yeah. What?
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I mean they do something, because if you try to go buy a car as a married couple,
right,
it comes up.
Right.
So how do you not take it into consideration?
Yeah. So they take it into consideration, but the question was whether they merge together as one. So they don't technically merge together as one, but you're absolutely right. I'll give you that one because it wasn't a good question in terms of how it was worded.
Yeah,
you're still the Sammy Sosa.
Out the park.
Out of the park. So before we go, I'm going to go ahead and give the annualcreditreport.com information one more time. It sounds like that was helpful, and anybody might have been driving or wasn't able to write that down. Please pull a free copy of your credit report. This is no charge, just the time that it'll take you to do it. Go online and pull it at www.annualcreditreport.com. That is www.annualcreditreport.com, or by calling 1-877-322-8228. That is 1-877-322-8228. Pull those free credit reports and manage what you measure, everybody. We'll be back next week with more Money Talks from Attorney Coral. Thank you so much this week for listening. See you soon.